I remember the day I was called just a teller as if it were etched in my mind. I was always the one who went above and beyond, putting my heart and soul into every transaction, every interaction. But those words stung like a hornet's sting. I had risen through the ranks of the bank, clawing my way from the bottom to become a senior bank executive in the heart of New York City. But that day, in that moment, I felt like a mere shadow of my potential. The bright lights of the city glittered outside my window, yet I felt trapped, as if I were in a glass box, a prisoner of expectations and titles that never reflected who I truly was. My hidden ambition was fueled by resentment, a fire that burned deep inside me, revenge against those who underestimated me. The betrayal didn't come from my colleagues, but from a place much closer to home. My own family, who never believed that a girl like me could achieve what I had. They called me ambitious like it was a curse, and for a long time I let their doubts cloud my judgment. My mother's disappointed gaze haunted me, her whispers of, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" echoing in my mind. But as I stood there, looking over the bustling streets, I took a deep breath. I decided that I would prove them all wrong, and I would do it in the most unexpected way, by buying the entire branch that had once overlooked me. I had been secretly investing, saving every dollar I could, using every connection I had forged to find the right opportunity. I was like a hawk, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The day came when I gathered the courage to approach the board with a bold proposal. I could see the skepticism in their eyes as they listened to my pitch. "They will never take you seriously," a voice whispered in the back of my mind. But I pressed on, feeling the heat rising inside me. My voice grew stronger with every word. I spoke not just of numbers, but of vision and resilience, painting a picture of why I belonged on that side of the desk. I laid out my plans for growth, my ideas for community engagement, and my strategies for innovation. It was a dazzling performance, but it was more than that. It was a revelation. If you love Helena's journey, like and subscribe to join her next chapter. I poured everything into that presentation. I could sense the tide shifting. The disbelief began to fade from their faces. I was no longer just a teller. I was a force to be reckoned with. The meeting ended, and I held my breath as they deliberated. For what felt like an eternity, they weighed my words against their biases. When they finally gave their answer, I was ready to hear no, but instead, I was met with a surprising twist. The board saw the potential in my vision, and they agreed to my plan. The exhilarating rush of adrenaline surged through me as I walked out of that boardroom, leaving behind the doubt I had carried for so long. I was now on the path to ownership, but the challenge had just begun. As I made my plans to buy the branch, the whispers grew louder. Those same people who once doubted me now sought my advice, begging me to share my secrets. It felt surreal, almost like they were trying to rewrite history, as if they had never called me just a teller. I smiled politely, deflecting their requests while savoring the satisfaction of having the upper hand. They didn't realize that my ambition was not just about climbing the ranks, but taking control of my destiny. I often found myself thinking about my sister, the one who had always been the golden child, basking in my parents' praise while I was left to fend for myself. When I purchased the branch, she reached out, trying to reconnect, wanting to share in the success she saw me achieving. But I had learned a valuable lesson about betrayal. My heart swelled with a mixture of anger and triumph as I remembered all the times they doubted me. I told her the truth of my journey, how I had to fight for every inch, how their lack of faith only fueled my fire. "I don't need your help," I told her, a flicker of hardness in my voice. "I did this on my own." The conversation left me with a sense of power. I had taken control of my life, and there was no place for anyone who doubted me. The new branch was a reflection of my ambition. I transformed the space into a vibrant hub of financial growth, a community center for entrepreneurs, and an incubator for dreams. My success was intoxicating, and my hidden ambitions were now shining bright for all to see. But as I reveled in my victory, I learned that the thirst for revenge could quickly turn into a hunger for something deeper: justice. The moment I realized I was no longer just a teller but the owner, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had reclaimed my identity, and I was not just building a business, I was paving the way for others to follow. I began mentoring young women who were eager to break through the glass ceilings that had once held me down. I shared my story, hoping to inspire them to push past the doubts and take ownership of their futures, just as I had done. In the end, it was not just about revenge anymore. It was about creating a legacy. The day I stood in front of my employees, I felt a swell of pride. I was no longer the girl known only for her ambition. I was a force of nature, an architect of my destiny. I watched as they looked at me with admiration, and for the first time in my life, I felt whole. I had turned the tables, and in the process, I had found my true self. I had risen from the ashes of betrayal and emerged stronger than ever. So here I stand, Helena Montez, no longer just a teller but a woman who owns her narrative, and I will never let anyone define me again. The skyline may change, but my story is just beginning. Join me as I continue to rise and break barriers, one day at a time. You won't want to miss what comes next.